ago, oh man, it's been almost a couple of years, actually been a decade or so, one of my good friends, Michael Murray, Dr. Michael Murray, who prolifically writes books. One of his books is Reversing Diabetes. So, you know, when it first came to the market, I took that book, devoured it, studied it, did everything that I could to get nutritionally familiar with it. And tonight, I'll take those quite a few hundred pages, reduce them to about 10 simple slides, and keep your attention for just a few minutes. But I do believe that if we were to get a handle on this diabetes situation, we'll find that there is some great hope, and type 2 diabetes will be our principal talk tonight. But let me also make mention there are 3 types of diabetes. One that's not nearly as common as type 2 is called type 1. That is an insulin-dependent diabetic. Those are diabetic mellitus. That's the one who has to use insulin in order to survive or to live. And most of the time in medicine, they call that juvenile diabetes because it typically strikes a child 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age, but it can come as late as age 30. What happens in type 1 diabetes is that the organ of the body, the pancreas, no longer produces sufficient amounts of insulin to take care of the carbohydrate load. And in 85% of these cases, the immune system has been destroyed. The pancreatic cells, what we call the insulin-secreting beta cells, the islet of Langerhans, the part of the human anatomy that produces insulin, is damaged, and that allows way too much glucose to build up in the bloodstream. And because the glucose is not getting into the cell, literally type 1 diabetes is a cell starvation. It's a very difficult disease. Tonight we're going to focus on type 2 diabetes, and that is known as non-insulin dependent. 90% of all diabetics have this type of diabetes. Most of them are over the age of 40. Practically every single one of them are overweight, and 100% of them have a problem with insulin regulation. They are insensitive to insulin. Their body produces insulin, but their body does not know how to utilize insulin. And it really is becoming a phenomenon of medical catastrophe, because what used to be age 40 and up is now hitting children under the age of 12. We're talking about a devastating medical problem. And when that happens, the peripheral organs and the tissues of the body, they become so stubborn to insulin, and the effects of insulin are no longer regulating, so the blood sugars and the blood fats and the blood glycations just get all out of whack. A very small, the third type of diabetes, is called gestational diabetes, and it only happens between 2% and maybe as high as 5% of all the pregnancies in the world. And these pregnant women, because of the overload, develop diabetes while pregnant. Thank goodness a lot of them become undiabetic at the birth, but unfortunately the offspring, because of the overload of insulin resistance in the mother, these children become much higher risk of diabetes later in life. And as we see on the next slide there, we're talking about diabetic symptoms. There's no doubt that we can look at your glucose insulin tolerance test. We can look at your glucose resistance. We can look at your blood sugar levels. Those factors give us numbers, but there are symptoms that show up with type 2 diabetes, as well as gestational diabetes, as well as type 1. Most of the time, these people become excessive in their thirst and in their hunger. It's like, whoa, it ain't just a little, it's a lot. And because of that, when they drink a lot, they're going to frequently urinate, and unfortunately, it's going to be in copious amounts. So that particular problem, excess thirst, excess urination, leads right on down the line. When we deal with diabetes, we see both sides of the spectrum in weight. Type 1 diabetics, a lot of times, will have major weight loss. They'll be extra hard to keep a normal protein balance, a good weight control. But unfortunately for the type 2 diabetes, they are almost always battling weight gain. And we need to be aware of something. Diabetes is very insidious, and it just symptomatically comes on so gradually that a lot of people just don't even notice it, and they don't even take concern about it. But you do need to be out watching if you start having cuts or even bruises that don't want to heal in just a day or so. That's a sign that there's something going on internally. If you start having tingling in the tips of your fingers or down in the toes and the feet, that's a sign that something is out of balance. If you have an extreme lack of energy, when you're tired, you are dog tired. That's a very clear sign that something metabolic is out. When the skin becomes itchy and you say, I don't know, I just got to bathe and slather all over with some kind of ointment or some kind of lotion to stop this itchy skin. Well, it could be that it's an internal metabolism called diabetes. If the vision is getting blurred some days, and then it clears up, and then it gets blurred and clears up. Look out. Something's going awry with the sugar balances. If you're one who constantly has recurring bladder or vaginal yeast infections and they just come too regularly, more than once a year, that is a problem. And by the way, 60% of type 2 diabetics wind up with skin tags on their neck or their face or their armpit or their groin area or folds of the breast. And it really is. It's almost like doctors now can look at the skin tag and see if that person, first thing they say, well, let's have an A1C test, let's have a diabetic test, see where they're going. On the next slide, we jump over into the causes of type 1 diabetes. I'll only give it to you very briefly because our point being tonight is we're going to talk about what affects 90% of the population in diabetes type 2. But type 1, the reason that their body will no longer produce insulin is because something has damaged, hurt the cells of the pancreas. And many times it's caused by a virus or an infection or simply an immune system dysfunction. And if that virus and that immune system do not operate sufficiently, it can leave that organ that's producing the insulin vulnerable, and lo and behold, it's like something has broken the machinery. The number one cause of a real allergy that puts the insulin pump out of business is cow's milk. And unfortunately, because cow's milk is so loaded with albumin, the albumin in the cow's milk, not humanly functional, is totally different from the albumin in the human body. These things start having antigen-antibody reactions, and these autoimmune problems are so difficult that the body may be trying to fight off. Let's say that child had a vaccination, and now the body's immune system is over here. Then this child drinks a lot of cow's milk, which unfortunately is loaded down with female hormones and injectable stuff that the cow has been given. All of these things create much confusion to the immune system, and they're finding that breastfed babies are very less likely to get type 1 diabetes. And we also know that children before the age of 6, starting to feed them a lot of the grains and the gluten-containing foods, not good for that child at all. So type 1 diabetes has a lot to do with an autoimmune response. But here we go. Tonight we're going to talk about type 2 diabetics and why the prevalence. See, it used to be age 40 and out, and now we're talking 8, 9, and 10-year-old kids with a 40-year-old person's disease. And the connection is the standard American diet. It is the diet lifestyle. It is now we have become TV-oriented, and game-oriented and computer-oriented, and we're not out and about. We're not running wild and free like we used to. And you start adding a Western diet, which is high in good old sugary stuff, and unfortunately it's also laced in the high fatty foods. These high-fat, high-sugar foods are lacking the good nutrition. The amino acids are not there. If we were to discover that the protein, the animal protein, and we that eat beef and we that eat chicken, did you know that the proteins in your beef and chicken will only match the proteins of your muscles? It has no good. It's not bringing you any amino acid profile that's good for your skin or the organs of your body or your hair or your connective tissue. And unless we give you good, wholesome, right amino acids, then we're missing the boat, because your meat diet is only giving us protein that's good for the muscle, leaves you very low in the others. And because we don't eat fruits and vegetables and proper fiber, this means that the human body literally is undernourished amino acidly, and unfortunately will create an overweight problem. And then when insulin is being pumped, and most people pump plenty of insulin, that's fine, but because the cell structure is not utilizing the insulin, it's called insulin resistance, where it should be insulin sensitive, the main hormone insulin, which is now going to convert, it becomes a fat storage hormone. Fat storage hormone. That means with every cookie, every pasta, every rice, every potato, we're storing more fat. We're creating triglyceride problems. We're creating overload in the liver. And whenever you keep on high carb, low protein, much fatty diet, we're disrupting the ability of the human body to regulate sugar properly and most adequately. We pump too much insulin, and we have a cookie here and a sweet drink there and a cola over there, and kaboom, we got insulin, too much insulin being pumped. And whenever we pump too much insulin, trying to reduce a way out of whack, abnormally high blood glucose level, the body stores fat, and we start putting on fat. Goodness, and this makes our cells become more resistant to insulin, and even difficult with good exercise and trying to nutritionally eat better, very difficult to lose weight. So we come into the problem. Next slide, we call it insulin resistance. And everyone who is overweight, if we're 1 pound overweight, we are insulin resistant. It's automatic. Every person that is overweight is automatically in that category of insulin resistance. They're on a roller coaster. Some days they are normal, but most of the days they're high and low. That's not good. This means that the higher risk is in our detriment. We are more at risk for diabetes, type 2, also cancer, also heart disease. See, when insulin is resistant, it'll push cholesterol up as well as blood pressure. And I would imagine that many of you listening have many friends and family that are on blood pressure pills and cholesterol pills. And really, that's not the root problem of their whole scenario. Their root problem is improper insulin utilization, insulin resistance. Solve the insulin resistance, weight loss, blood pressure regulated, blood cholesterol regulated, without any pharmaceutical prescription drugs. The body is usually, because of insulin resistance, going to begin to bulge out. It becomes more like a shape of an apple, or the omentum, the front part of the belly, becomes what some people just term beer belly. And beer bellies are that because they are extremely high in bad carbohydrates. The body cannot utilize nor functionally gain any healthy benefits from the carbohydrates of beer. So the weight gain is around the middle. And in America, 1 in every 4 children today between the ages of 2 and 5 are now considered candidates for insulin resistance. and unfortunately, weight gain. Over 60% of the American population are insulin resistant. And insulin resistant is no doubt the greatest plague, medical plague, in the 21st century. So the question on the next slide is there hope? Is there hope? And by all means, people who are unsuccessful dieters, insulin resistant, and definitely suffering from type 2 diabetes, you can immensely reverse that and totally become helped with nutraceutical therapies. Now, this is Charlieology, but I guarantee it comes with a lot of forethought, a lot of science, and a lot of pre-thought. When we built the calorie-free Islean nutrition on my papers, when I was putting Formula A and Formula B together, when I was infiltrating this formula with this product, with this standardized extract, with these milligrams, it was all with the thought of how can we knock out insulin resistance and at the same time destroy type 2 diabetes. So what happens? Calorie-free to the rescue. And calorie-free is loaded. I'm talking about when you start taking sour green apple extract, immature sour green apple extracts, combined with the Ervingia, the power of the fruit, the nut, the Ervingia. We're giving you what we call dietary polyphenols. These particular polyphenols, these particular polysaccharides, these good sugars that are in this product are effective and very exceptional. They are so dynamic that they will go in and flood the blood, therefore lessening your hunger, your desire to eat. And at the same time, because we're controlling, sequestering the insulin resistance, we are going to reduce the HDL, the VHDL, the bad cholesterol. But at the same time, we're going to raise the good HDL cholesterol. And that promotes healthier blood. Because of the high fiber that's in our calorie-free, we're going to promote better bowel regularity. When all this happens, when the effectiveness of insulin resistance is turned into insulin sensitivity, we now instill healthy blood sugar balances. We get you off of the roller coaster. Sure, your insulin pumps, but it doesn't have to go high, and it doesn't have to drop below abnormal. It's on a level train. This improves the diabetes. This gets things under control. And when this happens, you're going to reduce the after-meal blood sugar levels. You're going to slow down the absorption of glucose from the gut. You're going to increase the brain's ability to regulate and to speak to the leptin and the adiponectin, the hormones that tell the brain we are full. Slow down. We don't have to eat as much. And because we are reducing, simply reducing, with calorie-free, whatever food product it is, we're going to take the carbohydrate factor of that and reduce the absorption of the calories, the carbohydrate, drastically lowering the glycemic index. All this is going to increase insulin sensitivity, saying to the body, we are in control. And I guarantee you, the blood sugars are going to balance. And then comes the companion product, Islean. It's designed to help convert the glucose that's stored in the fat into good productive energy. Yes, we want the insulin to work with the glucose in the blood to give us energy, but we also want the Islean to give us a spectrum that is capable of breaking down existing fat into better energy, adenosine triphosphate, the good, wholesome, long-term, powerful, vibrant energy. And while we're doing this, the nutrition of Islean is designed to blanket the blood and blanket the cell structure, blanket the tissue to protect it against unnecessary free radical damage all throughout, because blood sugar irregularities are going to cause tingling and numbing of the nerve fibers. That's called neuropathy. We bring in Mr. Isleen to police that, stopping the neurological damage, stopping the neuropathy, the pain, the inflammation, the tingling, the numbness in the outer peripheries. So what is happening? Isleen now helps to improve blood sugar levels. Isleen begins to stimulate the synthesis of fatty acids and the cholesterol. See, synthesis, building up the good essential fatty acids that the brain needs. Did you know your brain is very much built of cholesterol? So we need good cholesterol at the expense of bad cholesterol. Isleen builds good cholesterol, tears down bad cholesterol. When that happens, the fat that has a sugar stuck to it, fat plus sugar, that's called triglyceride. Now we begin to eradicate and move those molecules, cleave them, break them down into essential fatty acids, giving the brain more stamina, the body more energy. And when that happens, the hormones start flowing. And the adiponectin, the leptin, the hypothalamus becomes very proactive, and it starts reading the code, reading the message, and it says suppress the appetite, stop the sugar roller coaster, help the function of the better nutrition to keep going. Isleen helps decrease the bad cholesterol, the bad hormones like cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. Cortisol will put fat on somebody quickly. Cortisol will make insulin resistance a problem. Decrease cortisol, control insulin resistance. And then when all that stuff happens, the blood is flowing, the blood sugar is more enhanced, your body senses, oh, we're feeling better. And now the islet of Langerhans and the beta cells, those little bitty tiny little things down there on the pancreas, they get happy, and they'll only produce the right amount of insulin. They won't spurt and sputter. They won't give you too much, and they won't give you too little. It's like, whoa, I can do it, I can do it. And when you got a good insulin balance, you're not storing fat, but you are breaking down stuff for energy. And this is all because Isleen, inhibiting the glucose-stimulated insulin release, reducing the insulin requirements, and then comes the adrenal gland, because the cortisol levels are down. It's going to get excited, and it's going to speak to the thyroid. Oh, and when the thyroid is hypo-low, when it's down and it's metabolically zip, it is so lethargic, so lazy, so tired, so dull. But as soon as the adrenals get notice that the hypothalamus of the brain is sensing that all systems are working, the thyroid comes back to play, and you gain metabolism. And there, for some people, it may be 3 months, maybe 6 months into good old insulin calorie-free therapy, but for the first time in a decade, they're going to begin to sense that, wow, we've got it, we've got it, we've got it. So with all that in mind, Jack, the last slide, this is just some Charlieology, putting it all together. Yes, you should eat smaller meals. Yes, you should be much higher in protein. And by the way, don't overdo protein, because that'll just slap everything in the face. It's got to be balanced. And whatever you do, watch out. These foods are always insulin resistant. White sugar, white flour, white pasta, white rice, white potato. And if you'll notice, the first name of every one of those is white. And if you'll just turn your attention to eating brightly colored foods, bright colored fruit, bright colored vegetable, the more brightly the colored, the more insulin sensitive it is. And then when you get that going, you're going to curtail the processed foods. If it comes out of a box, watch out. It'll convert so fast to increase blood sugars that your little cannon will be spurting insulin, and it won't know when to quit. You just need to eat more of the complex, the carbohydrates that are real McCoy, that come out of God's garden. And look out for all those stuff that's loaded down with nitrites, bologna, and hot dogs and pepperoni. They will mess up a good insulin resistance program in a heartbeat. And look, a little walk, we're only talking 30 minutes. That's 15 minutes out, 15 minutes back. And for some, yep, I know you can't do it every day, but even if you did it 3 out of 7, that puts you in the top 85 percentile, the top 85 percentile of all athletes in the world, walking only 3 times a week, 15 minutes out, 15 minutes back, put you in the top 85%. So that shows you how exercised we are. Don't ever skip breakfast. The body will hate you for that. And whatever you do, if you are a diabetic, your magic number in fiber is 40. If you don't get it, your body's going to have a conniption fit. Look at your package label. Anything that has a 4-letter word, HFCS, high fructose corn syrup, eliminate it. That's 40 times as calorie pumping, as insulin resisting as any other food. And for goodness sakes, don't confuse your hypothalamus. Your hypothalamus in the brain is trying to read leptin and adiponectin. Your brain is trying to help you to get over the hump. And if you poison your brain with equal aspartame or sucralose splenda or sweet and low saccharin, you are messing up the hypothalamus link, and your body's going to not be able to help you out. And avoid alcohol, avoid cigarettes. People that are going to imbibe in alcohol and cigarettes are just going to just increase their insulin resistance to a much sterner position. And when you get down to the bottom line, what did Dr. Chali say would be the best to do? Calorie-free and is lean. And for me, the flagship product remains OPC, because OPC gives the body all the B's, all the amino acids, all the enzymes, all the necessary things that will help the calorie-free and the is lean to be a superstar. So can we reverse type 2 diabetes? If you don't have the book, if you're a diabetic, I just challenge you. The book is written by Dr. Michael Murray. He's a personal friend. We have lectured all over the United States together. And I promise you, when you read that book, you're going to learn more about diabetes. But I guarantee you that good nutrition, good, wholesome, standardized, properly dispensed nutrition is the best factor in all the factors of reversing type 2 diabetes.